Master.
You got it, because everybody heard that, because I pressed the record button right when you called me Master. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Imaginary Boys podcast. I am one of the two hosts, Mr. Habanero, and I have my secondary good friend, the other host, Mr. Lettuce over here. How are you doing, Lettuce?
They call me Toby.
Oh, God. Because that's totally not a reference to anything whatsoever, and it's just a random name we pulled out of a hat, and it has no relevance or reference to anything. Please don't cancel us. So,
I was referencing a gardening documentary.
I'm sure you were, buddy. I'm sure you were. Oh man. So I was gonna tell this story. Originally I was gonna tell it off the podcast, but I felt like it made perfect sense. So the last time we did the podcast, because I have to turn off the AC unit because my microphone is super sensitive. And for some reason, it's not as sensitive when I'm streaming, but if I'm recording, it's very sensitive, so I can't have the AC unit going. It gets really hot in my apartment. So what I discovered is the last couple of times I streamed, I remembered that I had these like really nice basketball shorts that were given to me like years ago by a guy that was like 3, maybe 4 times my size. And so this friend of mine gave them to me many years ago, and he's like, oh yeah, these are like, basketball shorts I used to wear when I was like really young. And so he gave them to me as a gift, and I've been wearing them ever since, every once in a while, and I just remembered that I had them. And even at that time, and even now, they are like 2 sizes too big for me. So like I walk around my apartment trying to stay cool wearing these basketball shorts, and my pants are just constantly falling down. So I'm here with my shorts around my ankles, trying desperately to pull them up, and but I'm staying cool, and it's very nice and it's very comfortable. So I'm not in the nude, not this time around, anyways. And if I was in the nude, I would not draw attention to it. But because I'm not nude, I'm allowed to draw attention to the fact that sometimes I might be nude when I'm doing this podcast. So there you go. But nobody would know until I said it. But now they do. You never know.
Imaginary Boys, the live stream.
That's dangerous, man. Like I can't put a camera in front of my face when we're doing this podcast, man. There's so much stuff that people are not allowed to see when I'm doing this podcast. I mean, I don't know how it is on your end. I can only assume that it's probably a little bit more hardcore than whatever I'm doing, but I think that's something.
I live in the deep south. Even with fans going, it's still like 79 in here.
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely rocking the Nike.
Yeah, you got to rock that Nike, man. I feel it. Yeah. There was definitely like a couple of the Imaginary Boys podcasts that we did where I was just like, yeah, I'm not wearing anything. I'm not going to say anything or draw attention to it, but I'm not wearing anything. And then I would mention it to Lettuce like afterwards, and then he'd be like, oh, goddamn. Ugh.
Mommy, why my pee-pee hard?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I got my...
That's where we listen to... This is where we lose our 5 listeners.
Shut up, man. I happen to know that our listeners probably love that kind of stuff. I think. I would hope.
At least one of those listeners probably enjoying this conversation.
Hey, man, like the 6 people that watched our previous podcast apparently really got a lot out of the Dr. Manhattan's Big Blue Cock spiel. So I think I got a pretty good idea of what kind of people are listening to our podcast. So, dude, I got feedback on the podcast from my dad the other day. He was like,
really?
Yeah, he loved it. He loves it. Yeah. Well, okay. So apparently I misquoted him, and I felt really bad about it. My dad actually hates Ragnarok. He doesn't like that movie.
Oh.
Yeah. I felt really bad that I misquoted him on it, but he doesn't like it.
And apparently a couple episodes ago I was wrong.
Yeah.
I said that Diablo Immortal had came out.
Yeah, I had a feeling that it did it not because...
No, because it just got delayed.
Oh, well, I wonder why that happened, I wonder what could have possibly delayed Diablo Immortal, huh? It's not like as if there's anything controversial going on right now with Blizzard or anything like that.
Activision Blizzard is just a paragon of clean and wholesome AAA game development.
They couldn't possibly ever toe the line or step out of bounds or anything like that. No. Not at all.
No, they are the shining example upon the hill. Everybody should be.
Heart of gold, my friend. Heart of gold.
Everybody should be Activision Blizzard.
Oh god, such a mess. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm actually curious. Do you think with everything that's going on with them, do you think they're done, or do you think they'll recover?
This will blow over.
Yeah, I think so.
A couple of people will quit or be fired.
Mm-hmm.
They've already lost 2.
Yeah. Like, they lost 2 as in they lost people who were being abused?
CEOs have resigned.
Oh, okay.
Like, executive level, high level people have already willfully resigned.
But, like, I don't think that's gonna, like, cut the problem at its roots, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like...
It's not, but this shit's going to blow over.
Yeah, and then it'll just go back to normal.
Mostly because the political activists have gotten a hold of this.
Yeah.
And tried to weaponize this problem for their for their cause.
Yeah.
Which will only guarantee that everybody will just stop caring after a while.
I'll be honest, I don't know if it's overdone or overblown or anything like that, but it genuinely, like, the whole thing with that is it genuinely disgusts me. I thought it was pretty disgusting.
No, I read the complaints. Disgusting.
Yeah.
But it was a shitty place to work for everybody, not just, women and people of color.
Yeah.
But everybody's like, this is an issue with women and people. No, I was like, no, this is a company that was ran shitty.
Yeah.
And need to be held to task for that. It has nothing to do with gender. This has nothing to do with race.
Yeah.
But you're going to make it about that, and then everybody's going to stop caring.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the thing is that...
And nothing will get done.
The thing that I feel like I've learned over time, like, and I started realizing this, like, years ago, is, like, the hobby and gaming industry in general... It's like, unless you're an independent developer, like if you're like an indie game designer or if you're like an indie hobby designer or something like that, unless you're like an independent developer, the gaming and hobby industry is terrible to work in. It just, I just feel like that's just across the board. Like, it's like... I
mean, that's any... The problem is, it's like some of the stuff, that's any industry.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah. When it goes major corporate.
Well, the thing is everybody complains about crunch. And I'm like, that's any job when you have a deadline.
Yeah.
Do your job correctly up front and meet your deadlines, or bitches be crunching.
Yeah. Well, it's just that,
really, any job anywhere.
Well, and it's not even just about, like, deadlines, like, I mean, but that's, because that's literally what you just said is true. It's like, well, you work for any company, you're going to, like, especially a major industry, you're going to come across, like, deadlines and things like that, and that's just par for the course, and you have to, like, get your job done, and you have to do it right, and, if you don't get it done on time, then you're going to be in a crunch, and you're going to suffer for it, and, it's going to affect you physically and mentally and all that stuff. Like, that's just par for the course. Just be good at your job, clearly. But I think that what really, when I say that it's the gaming and hobby industry, is a lot of these gaming and hobby industries are based on the idea, like, that really disgusts me and makes me realize that they're a problem, is they're like, well, you are being allowed to make a game for Blizzard, or you're allowed to work and create for Wizards of the Coast, or you have the like, you are so special that we picked you to work for us, and therefore, like, you know, it's a privilege. It's not a job, it's a privilege. And it's like, that's where a lot of the problems come in. It's like, no, this is an industry, and like, yeah, it's cool that that you get to work on something that is really fun and interesting and entertaining, but it's a job. You know, like, you're working a job, you expect to be paid, you expect to be treated like you would in any other industry or any other job. And also, you should be treated based on your, you know, your ability to do the job, or your talents within that job, or, you know, whatever. It's not about, like, you know, I am so lucky and so privileged that I get to work on a popular game franchise or a popular hobby franchise. And that's where I feel like that's what I feel like is a problem with, like, companies like Blizzard, you know, where it's like, oh, you're so lucky that you get to work for us, so we get to treat you like however we feel like, because you're so lucky that you get to work for us, you know? And that's where I feel like a lot of these gaming industries and companies are really just making all sorts of bad choices and major mistakes and things like that. And it really grosses me out, like, because it's like, you know, like, it's a job. It's, you know, like, it's just like any other job. And, like, you know, you can go to, like, there are plenty of, like, large corporate industries out there that are, I mean, you know, obviously, like, the larger the industry or the corporation or whatever, you know, it gets a little weird, and, like, you know, there's tons and tons of people to manage, and there's lots of rules to follow, and clearly that's the case. But the thing is that there are plenty of corporations that are very large that have to follow those rules because of how large they are, and they treat their employees all right, you know, like, you know, they have insurance policies, they have, like, protective things, you know, they're equal opportunity hirers, or, you know, like, whatever, they have guidelines they have to follow, you know. So it's like, it's just that, you know, if you're a company that's this large gaming industry, you're not, you know, you're not exempt from all those rules and proper business practices and the right, you know, the ability to treat people correctly, just because you're a popular game franchise or you're a popular hobby franchise.
I don't agree with you.
You what?
I actually don't agree with you on this.
What do you mean?
These people don't think that they're above the rules.
Oh, you mean like the larger corporations that are not?
No, the gaming company. Let's talk about the gaming companies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these people think they're above the rules. So you're looking at a company like Activision Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
The talent at Blizzard and the talent at Activision
mm-hmm.
came from smaller companies, like the people who are presidents and CEOs of these companies now started out as developers in the late 80s and early 90s.
Right.
And you know, they did things.
Well, like, what's your context on, like, did things? Are you putting that in a negative context or a positive context, or?
Well, at the time being, it wasn't a negative, because it was them and 5 or 10 other people working out of a studio making Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you know, game development. These people who were like the big heads of game development, they are just doing what they were raised to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they were never really taught about the standard before they were put in charge of them.
So you're saying, like, they didn't learn proper business practices because they started out as a small business in somebody's garage, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Look at the history of Atari.
Mm-hmm.
This is a repeated, especially in the game industry, but other technological companies kind of have this thing where, unless they recruit specifically business class, like large enterprises, business class managers,
mm-hmm.
the second they get large, they all almost instantly have issues.
Mm-hmm.
The shit that Activision, Blizzard, kind of, you know, some of the stuff, like some of the stuff is just irreprehensible. I've seen the complaints,
Yeah.
and there's some of the shit's just straight gross. But a lot of the other stuff they're complaining about is just
like, I assume you mean like when they were talking about like the deadlines and like, you know, how they had to like probably overwork or whatever, or something like that.
Oh no. The crunch thing is actually I'm actually going to blame on the current crop of employees. They were brought up differently, mostly because they didn't exist in a time where, you know, it wasn't. It's kind of how they were trained before they got the job.
Right. So you mean like they were like undertrained, or they weren't prepared or whatever for the crunching kind of stuff. I get that. That I think that makes sense.
They were sold a bill of goods by guidance counselors and whatever, you know, like get your degree in a year and a half in so-and-so school that they went to try to cut corners.
Yeah. This is like the participation trophy kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's this thing.
Yeah, that's what I figured you were getting at.
They didn't realize what it is that they were getting into. Because any industry where you build something has this, and it's always had this. But for some strange reason, it's a problem in the game industry, and it's only that way because of current breed of employees that have just kind of ended up through the ranks, who really just don't have any idea, who get into it without knowing what exactly it takes.
Right. Well, and I mean, to kind of go back to the whole thing about like the management wasn't raised to understand what it's like to work in a properly corporate environment, because they were started in garages or whatever, like you said, Atari and you know, we're talking about Blizzard, which was 90s, 80s, and they didn't understand this stuff. The thing is, though, is that like where my overall disagreement comes in about that is that like the times change, obviously. Like, it's not the 80s and 90s anymore, and I mean, obviously we're currently in a kind of society and you know, overall pop culture where we're, you know, like, it sucks. Like, I'll admit that it sucks that it is this way, but we're a lot less forgiving than we used to be back in the 80s and 90s. And I mean, they've been around since the 80s and 90s, and they've grown up in the timeline for as long as we have. It's not like that they were, you know...
That's a dangerous assumption right there.
Well, but the thing is that, like, if they can't adapt to the way that businesses are run now, and you know, all the standards and rules and obviously the things that they admittedly that they have to tiptoe around, like, let's face it, they're tiptoeing around broken glass. I mean, it sucks, okay? But that doesn't change the fact that you still have to run a business that is professional. And, like, you know, if you're having management that doesn't know how to adapt to where we're at now, then, you know, you're going to want to have those people replaced, and you're going to want to be able to put in management that is actually going to be able to professionally abide by those rules and standards. So, I mean, and if not, they're going to get, you know, they're going to get removed. The problem
is that management doesn't know how to make World of Warcraft, though.
See, the thing is, though, is that it's like, you know, there are always plenty of people, like, I feel like there are plenty of different kinds of talents constantly growing, you know, in the industry. Like, we're getting tons of people who are interested in game design. We're getting tons of people, like, programming is any kind of computer work is a highly demanded thing in our current society, and it's, you know, people are constantly learning it and doing it and improving upon it. So it's like, just because, you know, somebody was good at programming this game 20 years ago doesn't mean that there isn't somebody who is as good, if not better, now currently. You know, and, you know, I mean, look at, like, you know, we were just talking about, you know, what was it, Diablo Immortal? That game looks like a piece of crap, but the thing is that, like, it's definitely not the same kind of thing that the original Diablo series was made of. You know, it's definitely different, and it's definitely been changed for what they think is relevant to current standards, but the point is that, you know, it's very unlikely that that game is an exact replica of like the older Diablo games that made the company famous in the first place. Like they're getting new people to work on this stuff. They're following new formulas. They're putting in new practices. So I don't agree with the idea that like they have to hold on to those older people who don't know how to adapt, because clearly their games are adapting to changing times and changing play styles, and whether we like it or not, you know, like whether we
are they really though? Are they really though?
I mean, I feel like it. I mean, it's just because, you know, like the thing is that they may be following similar formulas, but they are changing things. Like, I mean, would you honestly say that Immortal is the same as Diablo 2? Like,
no, but it's also not made by the people who made Diablo.
But isn't that the point, though? Like, isn't that because like they're clearly not using the same people from those older games? Like, so when you say like, you know, they're not. The thing is,
I mean, yeah, but Diablo Immortal is a reskin made by an entirely by Activision Blizzard to make a quick cent.
Yeah, but the thing is
there's nobody in Activision Blizzard or their development studios who's touching that game.
But that's exactly my point, because you were saying that, like, you know, they would want to keep their older people because those are the people that built Warcraft, right? So, like, they wouldn't want to hire new people because they don't know how to build Warcraft the same way that the older people did. But Immortal is a totally different game. They're not using the people from the older Diablo games to build Immortal. Therefore,
that's a really bad analogy.
Yeah, therefore they're using new people to build a new style of game that has nothing to do with any of the developers from the older games. So, I mean,
but Diablo Immortal isn't going to. The problem is people know that if Diablo Immortal wasn't some kind of like mobile gacha game, they would make no money on it.
Is that based on the idea that it's because, you know, gacha games are what make all the money and all that? I mean, it's
they went to a different company.
Yeah.
Said, hey, we'll give you we'll let you slap. We see that you make. They went to a Korean company.
Yeah. Said,
hey, we see that you make these kind of mobile dungeon crawler type games. We'll let you slap the Diablo name on a reskin of one of your other games. Mm-hmm. All you've got to do is give us a 65% cut of your money.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Diablo Immortal was a licensing deal. It wasn't a new game.
But the thing is, though, is that the point is that just because it's titled something that Blizzard was famous for in the 80s and 90s doesn't mean that it's sacred and can only be worked on by the older management or older developers. Because they don't care. They want to make that money. Therefore, they're going to, you know, be comfortable with, you know, allowing a non-Diablo original company to work on, or outsourcing it to work on a Diablo titled piece of like game or whatever. So I mean, I don't think that it's the sacredness of like the title and the sacredness of the original developers. So if they really wanted to just be like, you know what, old developers, get the hell out, we'll bring in new people, I think they have enough money and power to be able to do that, and they're just like, you know, we'll just train all these new people, we don't care. So I mean,
and then they'll watch as they're not made properly, and they all take, you know, longer time because, heaven forbid, somebody actually has to crunch to meet a deadline or do their job properly the first time.
I think they'll still make money. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back to being spite and narrow and look at it from the Wizards of the Coast point of view, which is they'll make their money.
How are they going to make money if they don't release a product?
Well, I mean, but the thing is that they will release a product. It might not be the same quality. It'll probably be worse quality. That's like what Wizards of the Coast does.
They get to do that once.
They get to do that a lot.
Okay, so the thing is I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit of logic into your spitefulness. Activision Blizzard isn't the only company making video games.
No, I mean, I get that. I mean, like we can talk about other game companies too. I mean,
every like if Activision Blizzard decides that they're going to just, cut all their talent and ship everything overseas and just release whatever, patchwork product comes out of it.
Mm-hmm.
People are just going to leave WoW for 5 team. Instead of playing Call of Duty, they'll play Battlefield.
But see, the thing is I'm a fan of that. Like, that's like, because I'm a person who, like, that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that, like, I think that they wouldn't care until all their money is on the line, until their entire company is on the line. And I would be comfortable with seeing their business fail because they're making bad decisions, But the thing is that, like, it's like one of the things I was trying to say out of, like, my spite before is that you have to consider that it's not just the company on its own. It's also about all the people who are buying into the company and buying into the products too. And then you have to ask yourself, like, well, okay, how large is their fan base? How large is the outspoken fan base versus the fan base that just blindly buys and doesn't say anything, right? So, like, if they're producing games that suck, but they have a fan base that doesn't, yell about it, and they just keep buying it anyways, because we've seen fan bases do that, then, how fast are they going to fail? Like, how soon will it come to them? How will they actually be able to realize it after a certain amount of, time, that they need to react and actually, like, fix what they're doing? Or are they just going to be like, no, we're still making enough money to survive, and, like, we'll just keep producing whatever we do, like, whatever we want, and outsourcing it how we please? We don't have to actually care. So, because, I mean, I feel like I feel like I see that kind of stuff all the time. Like, all the time, with all sorts of different companies, with all sorts of, like, gaming companies, where it's just like, well, we don't care because our fan base is too large. We don't care because we're a multi-billion-dollar company. We can afford a few $1 million losses because we'll make it up with the next game or whatever. Or our fan base is so large that we don't need to give a shit. We don't have to care because our fan base is too big.
Except they exist in a world where there's competition.
Right, but the thing is that
there are some things some fans will. There is a limit to what a lot of fans will accept.
Mm-hmm.
That's a loss in consumer. That's a loss in consumer confidence, and they will go ahead and say, "Well, I used to be a Call of Duty fan, but Call of Duty, their guns just blow up in your hands. They released a game where the guns just blow up in your hands."
Mm-hmm.
Instead of acting like guns. So we're going to go and just play Battlefield because we want to play the game with the pew-pews.
Right.
But we want to play a game with the pew-pews that works.
Well, I'm on the idea of, I want to see one of these companies fail then. Because I kind of can't really believe it until I actually see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the thing is, like, I've been saying this kind of stuff of, like, oh, well, this all should work because, if they're pissing off their fan base isn't going to buy anything anymore.
They're not. Oh, this stuff with the behavior and the company thing.
Yeah.
This isn't pissing off their fans.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like,
it's gross and something should be done about it, but it's not pissing off their fans.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, is that, like, until I see one of these companies, like, actually fail, I'm not gonna believe it. You know what I mean? I can't.
Which is why I say, this whole Activision thing will blow over. And it'll probably blow over faster than it was going to originally because of the way, outside sources have attached onto it.
And you want to know the best part? Is that not only will it blow over, but then it'll happen again. It will. It will. It will happen again. Like, or something, like, it's because...
Oh, absolutely.
Like...
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what really grosses me out, and this is what I keep trying to get back to, is that, like, they're too big. It's just they're too big. And it's like, I'm all on par for like success, but like when it starts getting to be, like I said, like, oh, we're so successful that we don't care. That's when I can't stand it. That's when I start getting really upset about it, and being like, well, and then I jump into being spiteful about it because, like, what are you gonna do? It's that classic thing of like the vocal minority versus silent majority kind of thing, where it's like, well, when your fan base is so large, and like you do have that vocal minority that's like, this is a problem and something needs to be done about it, but it's like you're never going to be able to get that silent majority to be able to do something about it, because they're just going to silently consume and they're not going to care because that's just what it is. And it's when like these large fan bases, like, and it's fine, like, I love being a fan of whatever I'm a fan of, but the thing is I also care about like quality and like, like sell me, like, I mean, like I'm not trying to be a politically correct person, but it's the classic saying of like, what's the saying? Like, just sell me the damn pizza. I think that's like the saying. Just sell me the goddamn pizza. Like, you know what I mean?
The thing is the pizza's good, though.
The pizza's okay. The pizza is acceptable. Yeah.
See, I kind of know, like, if we actually did a deep dive as consumers into the practices inside any of the company that makes the products we consume,
mm-hmm.
and we were completely honest about, like, where our morality is.
Yeah.
If we actually, like, dove into it,
mm-hmm.
and found practices we found not savory.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of things that, like, no one would be able to sell anybody anything anymore.
Yeah. No, I definitely know about that too. Because it's like,
it's the I kind of don't care how the sausage is made.
Yeah. It's funny because I was just thinking exactly that. Like, it's like, I don't want you to tell me how you kill the pig. I just want to know how you put it on my plate. Like,
Yeah, I don't need to see the cow get slaughtered. I just want to see part of its ass on my plate.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even have to cook it.
Yeah. Well, I
said you don't even have to cook it all that much.
Yeah, that's true. Are you a tartare fan?
Not a big fan of tartare, but I'll eat the shit out of a raw steak or a rare steak.
I've had tartare 3 different times. It's very good. I've never had a bad tartare, which is probably good. I don't think you can serve tartare if it's bad.
Yeah, no.
But I've had tartare 3 different times, and I like it. I'm a person who likes really strange foods, so that's what I'm all about.
I've had opportunities to try tartare,
mm-hmm.
and I've always been, and I was like, nah.
My rule about food is I will try anything at least once, at least. So like I try not to let like name or looks or description stop me from trying to eat something.
Well, no, it was always just like there was something else on the menu that interested me that interested me more.
That makes sense. The first time I ever had tartare was I went to a really, really fancy steakhouse with my family, and my sister ordered it, and she was like, "You got to try this," and I was like, "Okay." I was like, "What is it?" She's like, "It's tartare," and I'm like, "Okay, what is?" She's like, "It's basically just raw beef," and I was like, "All right, I'll try it." No question. I'll try it. Like, because I don't let people tell me what something is and then being like, "Oh no," But that's just me.
Right. But like, there's always just been something in like, so I've never tried it. I'd be interested.
Yeah.
It just, anytime that it's ever come up, there's always been like something else on the menu that interests me more.
Well, that's exactly like where I was with that situation where I was like, well, I've never had tartare. I don't really know what it is. So like, I'll order something that I know that I definitely want. And my sister ordered tartare because she knows what tartare is and she really likes it. And therefore she ordered it. So she let me try it. And now I know it was good. So I think that's kind of the secret to that is like, you just have to know somebody who's like, I genuinely like this. Would you like to try a bite? So, I feel bad because we took up a lot of time with that previous subject that we kind of just stumbled upon.
No, it's fine.
Well, because we actually did have something we genuinely wanted to talk about, but we kind of got into a whole spiel there. So you wanted to talk about, and I actually was interested in the topic, so let's actually discuss it. We've got a pretty good amount of time left here to really talk about it. So you wanted to talk about Kickstarter. You wanted to talk about Kickstarter. That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you said, because we were discussing it a little bit off the mic, and you were saying that you were curious about it because there was a board game that you saw that
a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, and you said it went for 2 days and it made what?
Like 2 mil, like 2 mil with like 2 mil with like a day and a half, 2 days.
Yeah. So like, what was your issue with it? Like, what really drew your attention to the fact that, like, I mean, clearly that's pretty insane. Like, an offer put up like, hey, I'm doing a Kickstarter. I would like to like make this board game into a reality, and we have the rights to a property that seems unusual for us to have the rights to. And then next thing you know, it's 2 days later, and oh, by the way, I have $2 million now. Right?
Yeah.
What was like?
Yeah. Like, well, first of all, what brought my attention, because it came across one of my news feeds,
right?
That it was a RPG for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Right, the show that I've seen episodes of it, but I've never really truly watched it. Right.
I'm a fan, and it interested me. And then I was like looking into it, and I was like, so what company's making this? It's got to be like, how did a small independent company get the Avatar license? And I was looking into it, I was like, okay, it's not that small, but it's still a pretty low known publishing company.
Right.
But then it hit me. They had the money to buy the license from Nickelodeon for Last Airbender.
So hold on. So they actually bought the license, or is it like one of those things with like, have you heard about all the weirdness about the SpiderMan license between Disney and Sony? Like, do you know about that?
Well, I mean, that's just yeah, that's
a big mess. A big money mess.
That's just a really big, weird money mess where Marvel gave the license to Sony.
Yeah.
And then Disney bought Marvel.
Yeah.
And Disney's like, we would really like to have this.
Yeah.
And Sony's like, bruh, you got mine.
I read so many articles about because it's actually really interesting. Like, if you guys are ever curious, if you're listening to this and curious, go onto Google and look up the value of the name of Spider-Man, like, to use as a property for movies and stuff like that. Look it up, because it'll blow your freaking mind how extremely valuable the Spider-Man property is, just in title alone. It's insane. But the reason why I brought that up is because, like, I was wondering if it's a situation like that. Like, I mean, obviously there isn't a third company competing for the Avatar title, but I wonder if it's like, no, we're Nickelodeon. We still, like, really own the title, but we're, like, renting it out to you. We're allowing you to use it for whatever you're doing.
Well, I mean, it's like what Pokemon used to do.
With Wizards of the Coast?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the company didn't buy the title, right?
No. I mean, they bought the license. When you buy the license to do something, you could use this intellectual property to produce whatever it is that your license allows you to produce.
Right.
Apparently, they got the licensing right. They got licensing right to make a tabletop RPG, and I have to imagine that wasn't cheap.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be, because Avatar's got a lot of following to it. I don't know if they sell... Do they sell merchandise? It seems like they probably do, right?
Yeah, they sell merchandise.
Yeah, so it's probably got it's got a large following. It probably makes a pretty good amount of money. So it would make sense that it would be probably a pretty expensive license to acquire, right?
And this is a company that bought that license,
Right.
and then went on to Kickstarter and say, "Hey, give us $50K to make this game."
Mm-hmm. That seems low too. Like 50,000. Like asking for 50,000. Like that's
not actually a lot. If you're already a publishing company,
especially if you're working for like Nickelodeon with like a license like Avatar, like that seems low.
well, it's not that low for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because there's a way that you can get like a tabletop RPG off the ground,
right,
with less money than that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's just because it's a big property. That's why I think it's weird, you know?
Yeah, like they spent more money on that license than what they were
asking for. Yeah, that is pretty weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna double check what the initial goal was.
Yeah.
For Avatar Legends.
Avatar Legends. Remind you of anything, Mr. Lettuce?
Okay, so yeah. Oh yeah, that one occurred to me too. So yeah. It was a 30-day project.
Right.
They were asking for $50K, and $50K is not a lot to get started to produce a to write a role-playing book.
Sure.
Or books if you already have a system.
Wait, so is it a board game or is it like a D&D kind of thing?
It's a tabletop RPG.
Okay, I think I understand. So it's probably like, it's kind of like a D&D thing where they have books and stuff like that and they give you a board and like some pieces, but you're like role-playing it, right? So like you're playing characters, you're doing the D&D style kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a bet. I was thinking more like my original thought process before you made that clear to me is like, it's Monopoly Avatar Edition, you know, like that's what I was thinking at first.
No. It's a RPG books.
Gotcha.
They have the license. They don't have to. The thing is now that they have the license, Avatar Studios they can basically get artwork off of whatever. They could just basically use like stills from Avatar concept art.
That's pretty cool.
So they don't have to hire artists. They could just take stills from cartoons.
Yeah.
To publish their book. If they have a system if they have their system in place, they don't need to design that system. They just need to write the book.
Yeah.
Or books. So $50K isn't that bad.
Sure. Okay. So like you're implying that a lot of the stuff that they would probably have to spend a lot of money on is probably simplified because all the work is already done. They just kind of copy and paste it and maybe rewrite a few things basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
the
thing is why is this company who probably spent $1 million on the license?
Right.
Like it would be surprising me if they spent less than $1 million on the license. Turning around and asking people for $50K.
Yeah.
To get their game launched. And this just kind of reminded me why I kind of stopped following Kickstarter or stopped pledging to Kickstarter.
Right.
It's just a really shitty pre-order system.
Yeah.
Like, at its best, when Kickstarter is the best it is a terrible pre-order system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the pre-order because the game isn't even like in development. They're getting ready to put the game into development, you know, or you know they've just barely started the development and they're like, hey, listen, like we're working on this. Please send us money, you know.
Well, I mean, in video games, that system's existed forever in video games.
Right.
The second a game is announced.
Well, I mean, that's practically like being a stockholder, right? In a sense.
No.
Like buying stock in a company for the purpose of like supporting them to like build something for their company. Maybe I'm just not knowing what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, the thing is you don't have any kind of say
Right.
in what the company does.
Right.
And then they say that they're making a product, and you're about 55-60% assured you're going to get the product when they're done.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever get done.
Right.
Which, as I said, 55 to 60, it has been in my experience, because out of the 5 Kickstarters I've ever funded,
mm-hmm.
I've only gotten 2 of them.
Right.
And one Reading Rainbow Kickstarter, which was basically a GoFundMe for LeVar Burton to do book stuff for kids using the Reading Rainbow brand. I basically bought a couple of mugs, refrigerator magnets from LeVar, that said Reading Rainbow, from LeVar Burton, for like $25 for a charity to get kids books.
Okay.
The other successful one that I did was the card game Exploding Kittens.
Oh, I've actually seen that game.
Yeah, I kickstarted it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Little special box. So I was a Kickstarter for Exploding Kittens.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually know about that game. I've seen it a couple times. Yeah, see, Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I did a Kickstarter for Ascension Digital.
Ascension. I think I've heard of it.
It's made by a couple of ex-Magic pros. One of them is Brian Kibler.
Oh, well, I know Brian Kibler, but I don't know Ascension.
Okay. So, Ascension's actually a really fun card.
Okay. All right.
They were trying to build an online version of it. They had earlier licensed an iOS version that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The AI wasn't working and the online was barely functional.
Right.
They promised they promised, like, they made it sound in their Kickstarter like they were working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway, like a year after the Kickstarter was supposed to be, the product was supposed to be released, they announced that they were just letting the iOS company build everything.
So they pocketed all the money?
Yeah, well, they didn't. I asked for. I actually got a refund.
Okay.
I was like, well, this isn't what you said when you did this. You said I haven't gotten any of these rewards. I want a refund.
Right.
And they actually gave us the refund. And then there was another one where the project just kind of crashed and burned, but they, at the very least, were very upfront and honest about how it crashed and burned.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually able to be able to give refunds.
Well, see, yeah, one of my problems with Kickstarter is that I feel like that you're a lot more prone to being scammed. I've heard a lot of scam stories based around GoFundMe and just any website that is about crowdsourcing projects. I've heard a lot about scams and stuff like that. Like, I remember there are two that come to mind right away. As I was watching a video that was talking about just it's not a big scam that took advantage of tons and tons of people. It was a smaller one where it was just like the project was canceled. There was no return of money to anybody whatsoever. They just kind of took all the money and they just booked it, and nobody was able to get their money back. The other one that I remember that's kind of like a big deal right now, I feel like I hear about it, is I think it's called Anime Zone or something like that. Have you heard about this? I think it's called Anime Zone. Have you heard about this one?
No.
It's basically it's a startup for a online anime streaming company that is trying to compete with Crunchyroll and stuff like that. And I think it's called Anime Zone. I kind of want to check it, but at the same time I kind of don't. But it's just a hot mess. You read through everything that they're trying to do, and it's just a goddamn hot mess. And they're oh yeah, we want to do a free streaming platform. And then they after they explain about how it's supposed to be a free streaming platform that is actually supposed to give you free, streaming anime content, that, you know, Crunchyroll and these other streaming platforms don't hold a candle to, because, you know, you have to pay for the service. And they're like, yeah, we do it all free. And then you get lower into it, and then they're like, oh, by the way, you're going to want to sign up and, like, pay for our service for, like, a year or 2 years or 5 years. And then they have these insane prices for, like, how long you're allowed to stream for. So it's like, so it's not free, like, you know? And then they have, like, a thing where they talk about, like, and we're also designing an anime waifu AI program to like watch anime with you while you stream it, and like you're supposed to be able to have conversations with it, and it just looks like a damn hot mess. It looks so bad, and but it just looks like a big old scam, and it just doesn't look coordinated at all. And you know, I see stuff where people are trying to like get into these, and then they put all their money into them, and then they just grab the money and they get the hell out, you know, like they just like take it and book it. And I just don't trust it. I don't trust crowdsourcing stuff at all. Like, it's just like, I'll just wait until you have something, and then if I like it, I'll purchase it, you know? Like, I mean, yeah. I can be on board with the idea of supporting creators, you know, especially like, you know, because I see stuff like, you know, obviously I run my own Patreon and all that, and, you know, I like the idea of like, yeah, you know what, I will fund a creator who is regularly making content on a regular basis. Like, they're not promising to make content and then, you know, I have to just hope and pray that they are doing it. You know, I like the idea of like, okay, you're doing something, and I can see clearly, like I can consume the content, like it's right there in front of me. I would be more than happy to donate to your cause because I can actively see what's going on. But it's like when it's a promissory kind of thing, you know, where, you know, I see the crowdsourcing stuff where it's like, oh yeah, we're working on something, but like you're not going to be able to like reap any benefit from it. You just have to like trust us and send us the money. You know, it's like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't trust that. I'm not into that. And I mean, you know, kudos to all the people who do go out and crowdsource, and then, you know, they're supporting people who end up doing something successful. That's cool and all. But I mean, I'm not quite that trusting of that kind of stuff. It just seems like a good way to get scammed really easily, you know?
Yeah, Kickstarter for me had like quickly, like even before you consider the scams, Kickstarter went from being a tool that like small independent creators who have something that they don't have the means to release,
right,
but really want to try to release.
Yeah.
It stopped from being that to being more of a that have means to release what they've created,
mm-hmm.
but don't want to assume any of the risk of trying to release a new product.
Right. Yeah. Well,
the big thing was like in video games and gaming, actually gaming in general, like games in general,
mm-hmm.
Are some of the biggest offenders. And like the guy who created Mega Man,
mm-hmm.
was like, I want to create a game that's kind of like Mega Man, but not really Mega Man. Give me
money, please. Yeah.
This is like, he got like millions upon millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like way more than he would ever need to have kicked that to release that game. And Mighty, like I think it was like Mighty Number 9. Like that was not a game that was not a game that took $9 million to release.
Right. Well, that's the problem, is because it's like, you know, when you it's going back to what I was talking about before. When you're big enough and your fan base is large enough, there's a lot of shisty shit you can get away with, which really sucks. It really sucks. And I mean, you know, that might not even be simply the case for this particular guy. It could just be that the game was, you know, this big idea that he had, and it didn't hold a candle to what people were expecting. And so, I mean, it might not have even been shisty, but it was just like, you know, like the game that he created didn't need the amount of money that he ended up acquiring. And it ended up not, you know, being all that impressive and even disappointing. So it's just this weird juxtaposition between the power of a creator and the power of a fan base, I feel like. And that's where, this kind of stuff gets into trouble. Like, and I feel like that's also part of the reason why a lot of these scams even occur. Like, the thing is like they create a fan base, like they create, like they say, like they give up all these promises of like, oh, well, like I'm working on this and this is what I want to do. And then there's people who, that idea is relevant to, and they create a fan base, and then, that fan base has a lot of money that they're willing to just throw at a promise that they don't even know is true or not. And then they just take the money and they get the hell out. And that scares me. That kind of stuff really spooks me. And the thing is too is that, like, if you give an avenue to a scam artist, like if you give them the ability to do something like that, they'll do it. They don't have a moral compass that's going to prevent them from doing something like that. Like, if they have the time and the means and the will to do it, like they'll take everything you got if they can get away with it. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I feel like we're in a time right now where scams are legitimately getting much scarier lately. Like, I feel like I see it in so many different avenues, especially when it comes to, the hobby and game industry, like what you were saying just now. It's a major offender. And it's just, it sucks because it's like, they're taking you for a ride and there's nothing you can really do about it. And, they have these websites that really just support the ability to do so, and that's really scary. And I mean, if there was any advice that I could give, it's just that, like, if you're going to crowdsource something, do some research, kind of like be really smart about what you're looking into, what you want to support. Like, kind of do some research, maybe get some background information. Don't be blinded by the fact that you're just a fan of the idea. Or, like, kind of try to, like, and sometimes that can be pretty tough too, because sometimes there's just not a ton of information, but with that kind of stuff. But if you can get away with it, just kind of do your research before you drop everything and spend all your money on something that, is otherwise sketchy if you were paying attention to what was going on. It's, like, I don't know, just be smart with your money. Try to, anyways.
And here's your, biannual reminder to not pre-order video games or games in general.
Yeah, pre-ordering is just it's not the early 2000s anymore, boys and girls. Pre-ordering is not a system that you can trust anymore.
Yeah, so I was like I like you. I had even forgotten Kickstarter existed, and then I saw that, and I was like, oh, what's this? And the thing is like, it looks like a legit project, but the thing is it doesn't need to be a Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
If it's got Nickelodeon's backing.
Yeah.
If they were able to pay for Nintendo or Nickelodeon's license, and they were only asking for $50,000.
Yeah.
They're probably just porting over to Avatar, and I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they just got to write the book and change, name A to name B.
Yeah. Are they recycling, like, RPG board game mechanics, or like,
Well, I assume, like, they have an in-house system that they use because they have one other game that they've released.
Ah, so it's probably like they're taking what they have from their previous property and kind of like readjusting
and slapping Avatar on it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, almost every game company does that.
Right. Yeah, it's like I said, I don't trust stuff like that.
But I mean, I'll tell you what, like, that game comes out, and I might buy it. Like, I might be interested in buying that RPG, even though.
But you're not going to crowdsource it.
Oh, I'm not going to pre-buy it.
Yeah. To
buy everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for their package where you get stuff is $20. $20 gets you the PDFs.
Okay. Like the manual and all that?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it gets you the PDF set. I'm going to pay $20 for some I mean, I don't know. Like, whatever modules they release, like, $2 for a game PDF sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And that doesn't even include the concept of sailing the high seas for it, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, right. Well, I do not advocate stealing something.
Never. Yeah, but the point is that, like, for people who do that stuff, I mean, it's like, you know, you're automatically losing money because that's an option for stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw it and I'm like, oh, this is just Kickstarter being Kickstarter. Yeah. People should just stop really, like, push back on this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Keiji Inafune game, Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, the Mega Man clone that you were talking about.
Yeah. Keiji Inafune went on a stage, says, "Hey, I'm making a new game that's kind of like Mega Man, being published by Deep Silver.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody but it's being kickstarted. Give me the money."
Right. So that's a situation where it's like, I have something that's funding this game. Like, I have a large corporation that can fund it.
Yeah,
but give me the money anyways.
He had Deep Silver in his pocket publishing this.
Yeah.
Because he's Keiji Inafune making a Mega Man game.
Yeah. Like I said, that's that ravenous fan base that I was talking about.
Yeah. So the publishers were like, "Hey, KG, let's make sure that, you know, there are still Mega Man fans out there. We're going to kickstart this so that we don't have any liability on this in case it goes tits up."
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's gross. I think that's gross.
Yeah, that's what Deep Silver did.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
They said, like, we'll publish this for you, but you're going to have to kickstart it to prove that it's worth publishing.
Yeah, it's basically the corporations basically said, we absolutely refuse to take any form of loss whatsoever.
Yeah, we're not willing to accept any risk in this.
Yeah, that's gross. That's pretty gross.
And it worked out in their favor.
Well, clearly. I mean, clearly. This is one of those depressing episodes, isn't it, Lettuce?
I guess.
Yeah, it's a little depressing.
What's not depressing is you in those baggy shorts.
Yeah, they're slipping and sliding all over my sweaty body right now. All right. Well, I think before I actually start breaking down and crying about all the subjects we talked about,
I think we should. If you do it for the homies.
That's kind of. Wait, what?
It's not gay if you do it for the homies.
Rolling with the homies. Okay, we gotta wrap this up. Buddy.
Yeah, this is starting to get into OnlyFans material.
Someday, maybe. Hey, so I got a Kickstarter I'm starting for Buy My Sweaty Shorts. Does that work? Can I, like, start a Kickstarter for me wearing, like, shorts until I sweat? I shouldn't be talking about this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna end it right here. Do you have any last minute thoughts, my good friend, before we axe this?
Streamer ball sweat. We could sell that stuff.
I'll get in a bathtub and I'll just wring out all the pairs of shorts I have. Just into a little jar for you. How about that?
Pure concentrated nut sweat. I think you're sitting on a gold mine, my man. I've seen what you look like. You're a cute kid.
It's salty streamer fuel, my friend.
Yeah, it could. It's got... Get your heart out, gamer girl bathwater.
You can tell it's got electrolytes because of how salty it is.
We got nut sweat.
Oh my god.
Choices of his gamer girl bathwater.
What was, have you ever seen, what's that movie? Tropic Thunder? Have you seen Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
What's the name of the energy drink that the rapper is selling in that movie? It's like booty sweat or something like that. I'll start swelling, like, instead of booty sweat, I'll start selling, like, nut sweat.
You just call it nut milk. Yeah, it's called booty sweat.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right, buddy. Oh God. Yeah. So try not to crowdsource, guys, and be smart with your money. And
Everything's a scam.
Everything's a scam. Be spiteful like I am.
Except for the one thing in this world that you can be sure of that is not a scam is habanero nut milk.
Yeah, buy now. Coming to a Kickstarter near you. All right, guys. Well, we've been the Imaginary Boys. Be sure to check us out on all our places, I guess. I'm gonna do all my stuff that I do. Do you want to do any shout outs, buddy? Or do you have any shout outs you want to do?
No, I don't have any shout outs.
You said your praise about my nut milk, so that's enough shout outs for you then?
Yeah, I'm gonna start brainstorming how we can sell that.
Okay. Get right on that, buddy. Well, you get right on that. Let me know how it works out. We'll do what. Maybe we could start work on the Patreon. We'll start working on the Patreon, see where that gets us. So anyways, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Super helps me out, especially if you're interested in Habanero's nut milk. Go ahead and hit the notification bell while you're at it, and check in the description below for all the wonderful links, such as PayPal and Streamlabs. And I'd like to give a wonderful shout out to my wonderful Patreon members, who will probably have first gain access to Habanero's nut milk when it finally comes out on the market. Those wonderful Patreon members include Ya Boy Lettuce, Bo Falcon, Fajuk Enterprises, James P, Miss Rebecca, as well as Scorpa, guys. Thank you guys all so much for supporting me on a regular basis, and you will be my beta prototype taste testers for Habanero's nut milk. So look forward to that, boys and girls, okay? All right. Other than that, we have been the Imaginary Boys. Good night, everybody. Goodbye.
Night, guys.
Goodbye.
Sweet dreams. Try not to have any nightmares.
About nut milk?
Yeah, well, I mean, nut milk probably will help you not have nightmares.
Oh, there you go. Dude, that could be...
Drink more Ovaltine, I mean nut milk.
That could be like our selling point. That could be like a slogan or something.
Cut down your nightmares.
All right, good night, everybody. Goodbye.